She cried and told me she loved me, but I didn't think nothing of it.
They were searching for a location to dispose of the remains.
Even though it was a weird, strange dynamic, she loved her like a sister.
I just wish I could have given her the world.
Brandon Barnes said that he wanted to give the world to his wife, Jessica, but he was sleeping with both of their roommates and allegedly murdered her. This morning, Jessica's mother joins us live to talk about the relationship gone wrong. Plus, hip-hop moguls Jay-Z and Diddy are celebrating a big legal win this morning after an accuser drops her case. We're talking about what the withdrawal may mean. Also this hour, a brand new theory for the Kohberger defense team. They're saying that unidentified male blood found at the King Road crime scene could be pointing to other suspects. We've got a criminology expert on the show to weigh in. And accused CEO assassin Luigi Mangione speaking out, addressing the extraordinary volume of questions and support. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Monday morning to you. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm your host, JulieGrant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court on this President's Day? We got a great show planned, so let's get it going. Grab that cup of coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. All that was left was her Bible. In the shocking, sickening, twisted case of the murder of 20-year-old Jessica Barnes, after she was strangled to death and her remains disposed of, all of her belongings were burned as well. Everything except for her Bible. And that Bible is the only possession of Jessica's that her family now has to cling to as they're grieving her death. How heartbreaking is that? Jessica Barnes should still be here, but she's not, because her husband allegedly strangled her to death. And what's more, he and their two housemates allegedly disposed of her body. Her husband was allegedly cheating on her with their two housemates. Now, if these allegations are true, that rotten, pathetic excuse for a husband deserves the stiffest penalty that South Carolina law allows. You want out of your marriage? You want to sleep around? Get a divorce. It's that simple. Nobody has the right to commit murder. This case makes me mad. Jessica Barnes deserves justice. Her family deserves peace. They should be able to give her a proper burial. And may God be with them as they grieve Jessica's death and disappearance, and as they seek justice and punishment for whomever is responsible. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Not only was the defendant having an affair with Baker, but they were also swinging with other people. Her older daughter, Jessica, who you'll hear from, found Baker sleeping in the defendant's bed.
Court is dark today due to the President's Day holiday, so we are looking ahead to what's coming up tomorrow for you. So we've got the celebrity hairstylist murder trial with Monica Sementilli. She's the defendant in this case going on in Los Angeles. Court will resume tomorrow after quite a long break in that case. And in South Carolina, we've got the defense's case beginning in the Rose Petal murder trial for defendant Zachary Hughes. And in Massachusetts, we've got defendant Karen Reed back in court for a motions hearing. Her case is over the murder of her boyfriend, police officer John O'Keefe. Now to our top story. The two women accused of helping Brandon Barnes dispose of Jessica Barnes's body were in court on Friday for their preliminary hearing. Brandon Barnes waived his hearing. The judge found probable cause and bound the women over, Kendall Mims and Victoria Tippett. They'll all be heading up to big court for their trial. The lead investigator in the case taking the stand, revealing some sickening new details about the homicide.
You can, at some point, you can see the tote being brought out of the pool house by Brandon Barnes with the assistance of Ms. Mims and Victoria Tippett, due to the dead weight of the body being in the tote. It's put in the HHR. Again, it's driven around. Apparently, what they told us was they were searching for a location to dispose of the remains before they ultimately ended at the location on Twin Lakes Road.
Oh, this is so heartbreaking. We have two very special guests we're going to be welcoming on the show this morning. We have the family spokesperson for Jessica Barnes' family. He's also a journalist. Troy Stiles is joining us. And also this morning we have hope to be joining us, Cecilia Varvera, who is Jessica's mother. And I want to be fully transparent with our audience, Troy. As you know, we had the shot up and we're having some technical difficulties. So as we're working to repair that, I'd like to go to you on this story. You were so kind to join us last week and really take us into that home where Jessica was living with her husband and these two housemates who apparently all turned on her, according to what police are saying. Troy, what do you think was the root of all of this?
Well, Julie, it seems that Brandon Barnes is the root of all of this. He certainly has a colored past. There's allegations of abuse, and he's actually been charged and convicted for the same types of crimes, domestic violence in the past. He's a serial strangler, and all of his victims in the past have spoken of this, just horrific amounts of abuse. And, as mentioned before, I'm not sure that the other two girls, the housemates, Victoria Tippett and Kendall Mims, aren't victims of his as well as suspects in this case, Julie.
You mentioned that the other day, and we just didn't have time to dive into that, but let's do that a bit now. Troy, when you say serial strangler, my understanding is there was an incident with Ms. Mims. Is that right? Did he strangle her at one point?
Yes, and he actually, there's another ex and they spoke of it in the trial or in the preliminary hearing. Her name is mentioned in the preliminary hearing as well, but he was charged in the state of Maine for criminal domestic violence, and she was interviewed, and she actually had to flee to the state of Maine to get away from Brandon and took him with her. Because that was where she could find safe shelter. And yes, Kendall Mims has certainly spoken out about the abuse that she suffered from Brandon and alleges that he strangled her as well. So, it's certainly something that we know is common with stranglers, that, once they do it, something just kind of gets lit up. So strangulation is certainly it's a terrifying thing. And it seems to be the one type of abuse where the person on the receiving end just gives everything that they've got and they relinquish all control to the abuser.
Excellent points, Troy. We talk a lot about domestic violence and domestic violence prevention on this program, and you're right, that is a key sign of lethality in a relationship. If that is going on, that is potentially what could happen. Someone could die. And here, police are saying that's what happened to sweet, beautiful Jessica. And Troy, I want you to stand by for me, please, because I'm being told we now have Cecilia Varvera, Jessica's mother, joining us by phone. We could see her moments ago and the shot just dropped out, but at least we can speak to you, Cecilia. So if you can hear me, I just want to start by saying, person to person, I'm so sorry for your loss, and from all of us here at Court TV, our heart goes out to you as you're grieving your daughter's death. Tell us, please, what you make of this situation and how her husband and their two housemates are being accused in her death and her disappearance.
It's very tragic thing that happened to Joe and to our family.
Okay, and Cecilia, I'm so sorry. I'm just going to interrupt you for a second because I want to hear every word you're saying, and apparently we're having trouble with an echo. So while we have our technology experts work on that. Troy, let me go back to you because it's through your work as a journalist, your company, Blunt Force Media, you did great interviews with Mr. Barnes before he was cuffed and locked up. You've gotten to know the story so well, and now you're speaking for the family. You shared with us such helpful, insightful information the other day. Could you speak, please, to their reaction? You know, when they hear the daughter's missing, was the first thought, oh my gosh, could Brandon be the one responsible?
That absolutely was the first thought. And Julie, we actually have, a part of our company represents families who find themselves the spotlight of a crime story, especially, you know, big spotlight stories. So I've actually worked with Cecilia and her family since the day that Jessica was reported missing. So Cecilia had shared with us a photo of Jessica that was horrifying, where she had just been beaten very badly. And so, you know, we knew that this was going to be a serious case. Of course, you know, oftentimes in missing persons cases, people come back. And so we were really hopeful that Jessica would come back. But eventually we realized that that was not going to be the case. And while Pendleton Police Department, which is kind of a tiny police department, while they conducted their investigation, we still had to hang flyers in the square and pretend like this was still a missing persons case, even after we knew that Jessica's remains had been found and we were waiting for positive identification through an odontology expert. But I have stood by this family from the very beginning, attended, you know, all of the hearings, and just spent such a large amount of time and, you know, in their intimate setting and with their family. And it's been quite a life-changing experience to be a part of their family throughout this, and to see just the pain that they're going through. And what happened to Jessica is horrendous. It really is.
It is, and they're lucky to have you, Troy. You know, victims, family members, you know, also are victims, as you know, and going through the criminal process isn't an easy one. They need an advocate, and there are people, as you know, who are victims advocates who work in the court system day in and day out. I always call them the unsung heroes of the system, because, you know, they're literally wiping tears off of family members' faces. They're holding the hands of family members as they have to see the person that did harm to their loved one. And here, you're essentially doing that. You may not be working in the courthouse, but you're essentially doing that outside for the family, and that's really commendable. I want to back up, Troy, to what you said. So we know that Jessica was killed, according to police, on August 2nd, 2024. You said there was an incident where Cecilia shared with you some photos where Jessica was badly beaten. How close in time do you know was that beating incident to August 2nd?
About 6 months before, and she had shared those with a friend of hers, and then that friend shared it with her mother and said, you know, hey, I think something is really bad going on and you need to be aware of this. Jessica had left Brandon on July 31st, and she actually went to her mother's house and put her things on the porch. And she kind of had like a mental breakdown, and she had made threats of self-harm. And then Pendleton police dispatched the ambulance that transported her to the hospital. And we're not sure really why Jessica wasn't placed on a psychiatric hold, but she wasn't, and she was actually able to leave the hospital, where Brandon in turn caught up with her and then allegedly murdered her 2 days later. He strangled her in front of Victoria, which is one of the housemates. And then they, of course, as you hear in the preliminary hearing, they drove all over the state of Georgia and with her body to try to find a place to hide it before coming back to where Brandon actually originally met Jessica. And that's where they burned her to nothing. There's nothing left of her except 3 teeth and a jawbone.
I read that it horrified me. Troy, you're right. And when you were explaining to us the other day, Jessica's family can't even give her a proper burial, which has to be so dreadful. I'm being told we've repaired Cecilia's audio. So Cecilia, JulieGrant again here. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties we're having. We certainly want to hear what you have to say. Tell us, please, what you want to say to Brandon Barnes, Jessica's husband.
I hope that you'll find Jesus, and Jessica wanted to be loved and cherished, and she wanted you to be a man of God, like you know already. And I hope where you are right now, that you'll get your Bible and repent for what you did.
Cecilia, tell us more about your beautiful daughter.
Jessica was a sweet girl. She was like my right hand, helped me with everything in the house. She was helping everybody who needed help. Very selfless girl. She was an artist. She liked to sing, to draw, to make jewelry. She was the sweetest girl.
She deserved to be loved. As you said, she deserved to be respected. She deserved to be safe in her home. Did you ever get the sense that she was unsafe there?
I did have a little bit of sense of that when I saw the picture in 2003. Some friends sent it to me. Her best friend sent the picture to me, and I went immediately with my friend to report the incident. And after that, I did a couple of check on her to see if she's okay, and it led to this murder in the end.
Cecilia, what did she tell you about that incident?
She did not want to talk about it. She did not want to talk about it. She was pregnant at that time. That was when it happened, it was in November, and she gave birth to a still baby on Easter Day.
Do you have any suspicion that Brandon did that unborn baby any harm?
I do. I think it was his face was very angry, and he was very disrespectful to me as Jessica's mom. And my kids, they were very scared of him.
Cecilia, we're so sorry for your loss, and we certainly are remembering your beautiful daughter here on this program, and we'll continue to remember her as the case progresses, and we'll continue conversing with Troy Stiles, a journalist and family spokesperson. Blunt Force Media is the company again, and check out those interviews with Brandon Barnes. They are chilling as we listen back to them. Cecilia, thank you. We'll hopefully get you on camera next time. We'll keep talking. And Troy, big thank you to you as well. We'll talk again soon. Take good care. And coming up next here on Opening Statements, here's what we've got.
USU. So you're coming from Washington State University? Yeah. And you're going where? Oh. We're going to be going to Pennsylvania. Oh, okay.
Bryan Kohberger's defense team has a new angle. They're using some unidentified blood DNA found at the house. Plus, Jay-Z and Diddy's 13-year-old rape accuser has just withdrawn the lawsuit against them. Why? What does this all mean? We'll talk about it next.
The victim had been brutally stabbed multiple times.
A single mother found dead.
An unsettling crime scene.
With rose petals scattered around her.
The suspect, a classically trained concert pianist.
Now a jury must decide, did this musician
commit murder?
I think there's meaning and significance to everything a killer does.
The Rose Petal Murder Trial, Tuesday morning, only on Court TV.
The biggest secret in the entertainment industry that really wasn't a secret at all has finally been revealed to the world. The wall of silence has now been broken, and victims are coming forward.
Now for what's trending in true crime, Jay-Z is now suing that attorney you just saw there, Tony Busby, for $20 million. This is on the heels of Busby's client dropping her lawsuit against Jay-Z and Diddy. Now the woman who was proceeding anonymously accused the hip-hop moguls of raping her at an after party after the VMAs when she was just 13 years old. They said there was another female major celebrity who stood by and watched too, but we never did get that name. That initial suit came out in October. We talked all about it. This was in the year 2000. Now, Jay-Z always denied the claims, so did Diddy, and he had this to say after his accuser voluntarily dismissed the suit with prejudice, meaning that it can't be found again. He said, quote, "The fictional tale they created was laughable. The trauma that my wife, my children, my loved ones, and I have endured can never be dismissed." Now, Tony Busby, that attorney for that accuser, has declined comment. He represents many accusers in cases that have been brought against Diddy. Now, we've got to ask the question, what does this withdrawal mean, right? Because it says on the docket, voluntary withdrawal. But what happened before the withdrawal? Did anything happen? Was there a big payout? Is there a non-disclosure? Was this done because the victim isn't being truthful? Why did this happen? We got a great power panel we put together. Let's get their thoughts on it. With me, entertainment commentator Holland Reed. She's also an actress and a photographer and has attended a Diddy party in the past. We've got with us attorney Tommy Pope. He's also a retired SLED agent and state lawmaker now. And we have retired criminal defense attorney and author Kirk Nurmi. Great to see you all on this. Yeah. Holland, let me begin with you. Why do you think we have this withdrawal after, I mean, such a big stink was made? You know, Tony Busby went to the press conference, all of that. I mean, all of our jaw. I remember us talking about this, the jaw-dropping moment when that 13-year-old at the time was saying that she was raped by these men, and another female celebrity watched. What do you think's going on here?
I think it's time, power, money. Time, power, money. She could not keep her story straight. Her father could not corroborate picking her up or dropping her off ever, driving down to this party. Her holes and the holes in her story just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you become a non-credible witness or a plaintiff, then you don't have the time, power, and money to continue on against the greats. You're going up against two of the biggest moguls, if not the biggest moguls, in the entire entertainment industry. And you are hiring, as Jay-Z called it, a 1-800 lawyer to defend you. So I believe at the end of this comes down to time, power, and money. Just because it was dropped does not mean there's innocence, but at least it clears them for now, and it cannot be brought up in the future. I think Jay-Z has not had any other victims come forward like Diddy has, and I think that's why it's more believable that Jay-Z was not there, and he stood by that from the beginning of all of this. But P. Diddy, he got off easy on this one, and I think it gives him maybe a little bit of a deep breath, but he still has an uphill battle from here on out.
Holland, are you sure you're not a trial attorney? Because I tell you what, that theme, time, power, money, is awesome. That should be what the federal government uses in New York with Diddy. That is beside the point. I love your analysis. Tommy Pope, let me go to you next. What do you think is going on here?
Well, just for the record, Julie, I want to tell you, I have never attended a Diddy party. I just want to get that out front in the introductions. It's tough being a victim, particularly a long time. Like I say, you can have holes in your case, even if it's true. But you led off with the thing that popped in my mind when I first read it earlier. I guess it was the end of last week, is some non-disclosure, some settlement. Now, with that being said, settlements aren't necessarily admission of guilt. Sometimes there's a nuisance value. And so I don't know the timing even of the lawsuit against this attorney versus this dismissal. So there's factors at play, but as you just heard, Diddy's got a lot more on his plate that he's got to worry about than I think Jay-Z does.
Yes, and just as a follow-up for you, Tommy, because you do civil work in addition to criminal practice, you do civil work. So I think this is a great teachable moment. So let's just say, and I'm not saying this is what happened because I don't know. I wish I did. I would tell everybody, but I don't know. We don't know what happened that led up to this, right? We just know withdrawn with prejudice, won't be found again. Tommy, if there was a money settlement, like let's say there's a non-disclosure, all of that, the docket wouldn't necessarily reflect that, would it? Am I correct on that?
That's true. And of course, when you got an underage victim too, there's an interesting question. In South Carolina, we call it compounding a felony, but basically buying off some type of civil action to prevent a criminal action. And that's a separate crime here in South Carolina. So, you know, again, we wouldn't be talking about it if it didn't beg more questions than it answered. But truly, you could settle out and have a non-disclosure. But sometimes the non-disclosure is at least filed, you know, to say you won't discuss it further. And that may have been contained in the dismissal with prejudice. You know, you'd have to look at the actual document.
Tommy, thank you for that. So we may never really know what the truth is on this one, which is a tough pill to swallow. And also, these names, you know, the female celebrity, we don't know who that is. My goodness, I remember Tony Busby, Kirk, near me saying, oh, we're going to go after people who just stood around at this party and didn't do anything or intercede and help. And now here we are. Your thoughts, please, on all this, Kirk.
Well, look, lawyers can say a lot of things. And when you have civil suits like this, there can be a lot of bluster involved, a lot of assertions made, and they don't necessarily have to be substantiated. One of the issues could be that those accusations aren't fully substantiated. But I think we have to see here there's a couple powerful things. I don't really think that Mr. Combs is really the driving force behind it. He is not in power, given the allegations against him, to wind up with a dismissed lawsuit, if you will. I think this is or not, we don't
Kirk,
really
thank you
know.
for that. Oh, we're losing you for some reason. We're going to work on your audio for a sec, Kirk. Hang in there. Holland, let me go back to you, please, because I think in all fairness, it's important to point out, well, you're in Hollywood. I mean, you've done acting work, all of that, invited to one of these parties. I want to have you say it again, if you don't mind, please. Tell us what that experience was like. Did you see anything that was criminal at all when you were there?
So yes, I have been to a Diddy party. I have been to 2 of them, and not the Diddy party that is a part of any of this, these allegations and these lawsuits. These were after parties, again, at BMAs, same exact situation, but not the exclusive, go up to the next level, anything like that. So it is the creme de la creme of every celebrity. Everyone wants to be there. Every wannabe actor, entertainer wants to be a part of these environments. Everybody's fighting to get in. Nobody is not following the rules to be there. You have to, look a certain way, go through security checks. You're rubbing elbows with people you never in a million years would rub elbows with. So this is a very exclusive situation. So if you are now, I guess, escorted to another area of this, I know nothing about that. But it is not, I don't know what the word is. I don't take it lightly that those things absolutely were probably happening unbeknownst to me. And I just was not privy to them because of maybe my status or whatever, and I would never want to be. But when you're in these situations, I can't imagine saying no, because the pressure is so high to comply to whatever these powerful people want you to do or want you to be a part of. I have had people grab me in a hallway trying to kiss me before at these parties, and I was saved by another celebrity because of that. So I know that if that's one little microcosm of assault, God knows what else is going on in other rooms or in other locations.
I appreciate that context so much, Holland. And I think in all fairness to Diddy, we don't want to paint with broad brushstrokes here. Lots of parties, the government has to be really specific, as you all know, with these allegations and what they're saying that he did. So thank you again for sharing that. Holland, I know we got to say goodbye, let you get on with your day. We'll follow you on social media until the next time, friend.
Absolutely.
See you
right,
soon.
thank you.
Thanks much. And still to come here on Opening Statements, could some unidentified blood DNA evidence help Bryan Kohberger? We'll talk about it. And Luigi Mangione breaking his silence, speaking out for the first time since his arrest. Welcome back. We're spotlighting the Idaho student murders case this morning against defendant Bryan Kohberger. His attorneys are hoping some unidentified blood evidence can set him free. So 2 unidentified male blood samples were found, one on a handrail inside of the home and one on a glove outside of the home on King Road, where those 4 beautiful students were brutally killed. Now, neither of those samples matches Kohberger. At a hearing last month, the judge seemed unconvinced that the presence of the 2 other DNA samples would be any reason to throw out probable cause for his arrest. His trial is set to begin in August, and let's not forget his touch DNA, DNA from his skin cells was found, investigators say, on the snap on the sheath that held a big, giant K-bar knife. All right, so let's talk about this. Let's bring in criminology expert, author, and professor at St. Thomas University, Dr. Debbie Goodman. Good morning, Dr. Debbie. Your thoughts on the defense team really hanging its hat on these 2 samples?
Well, Julie, I see DNA as it's silent, right? It doesn't say anything, yet it speaks volumes. I don't think this additional composition of blood will in any way eclipse or cloud or negate Bryan Kohberger's very significant DNA. So what I like to do, Julie, as a criminologist, yes, I think everything matters at a crime scene, blood, urine, hair prints, and such, but I like to see it as mild evidence, moderate, or major, and what we have here is major evidence against Bryan Kohberger, to include what you said at the onset, the 1-inch knife sheath with his DNA right there at the crime scene. We have at least 12 phone pings from the suspect's cell phone outside of the vicinity of the home on Kings Road. We have his vehicle, the white Elantra, on surveillance. And we know that as we go to trial on this in August, there will be much more. But does this new potential evidence in any way take away from his role? I do not think so whatsoever.
Dr. Debbie, thank you for that. And thinking about where the blood was, so on a handrail in the house and then in a glove outside of the home, again, belonging to 2 different people, neither of them being Kohberger. We know this house was a party house, right? We have information from police that there were lots of students on campus, off campus, that would go in and out routinely. Dr. Debbie, based on what you know about studying crime scenes, do you find this that unusual that there might be someone else's blood in 2 places on the property?
Not at all, Julie. In fact, it's exactly what you just said. All of us at some point may have different individuals coming in and out of a home. We may have our children, and then they have friends, and those individuals come over, or we may have an associate at the home to fix plumbing and whatnot. But the reality is, because that our victims were so social, friendly, outgoing, they had a lot of friends. There were a lot of, colleagues in and out of the home. It would almost be unusual and irregular if we didn't have any other type of composition. Mm-hmm. But it really, again, in my mind, Julie, as a criminologist, does not neglect, negate, nor eclipse any involvement of the suspect.
Dr. Debbie, how about blood on Bryan Kohberger? This is something that perhaps you even talked to your students about. If he did this, if he did the crime that officials say that he did, one might think, after stabbing 4 people, that he would be soaked in blood. Investigators never recovered any bloody clothing. What do you say to that, please, Dr. Debbie, if he is the guy they say he is?
Right. So it's not always the case, right, Julie, that somebody has a residual composition on them. The level of planning and premeditation that I believe this crime involved would also be a nod to his own likelihood of covering his tracks, so to speak. And so it's not always 100% that the individual who is participating in the actual carrying out of the crime, in this case, this horrendous stabbing, would have anything on him or herself if there was great detail and care taken to literally cover hands and cover feet and such.
You're so brilliant, Dr. Debbie. I could talk to you all day about this. We want to continue the conversation as we get closer and closer to that trial date. I'm so curious to see what other evidence they have. We know with the gag order in place, we're not privy to so much. It's sealed. And I think you hit the nail on the head. If he premeditated this to the degree investigators believe he did, then there would be an explanation, perhaps. Dr. Debbie Goodman, we'll let you get off to class. Thank you for everything this morning. We'll see you again soon. And coming up next here on Opening Statements, we're talking defendant Luigi Mangione making his first public statement from behind bars to his supporters.
It was the biggest story in the world.
People saw the facts differently.
Somebody manufactured evidence in this case.
This was kind of a crazy spectacle.
This case is a circus.
He was an icon.
They are in for the fight of their lives.
Everybody thinks you're guilty.
Trial and Error. Why did O.J. win? New episode Sunday night, 8 Eastern and Pacific, only on Court TV.
Luigi Mangione, the defendant, is charged with 1 count of murder in the first degree and 2 counts of murder in the second degree, including 1 count of murder in the second degree as an act of terrorism for the brazen, targeted, and premeditated shooting of Bryan Thompson, who, as you know, was the CEO of United Healthcare.
Now for what's tipping the scales as his criminal case slowly heads to trial, alleged CEO killer Luigi Mangione is thanking his supporters from behind bars. The murder suspect is grateful in a new statement posted to a website that was set up by his defense team to give information about his cases. Due to the, quote, extraordinary volume of inquiries and outpouring of support. That statement goes on to say, quote, powerfully, this support has transcended political, racial, and even class divisions as mail has flooded MDC from across the country and around the globe. Thank you again to everyone who took the time to write. I look forward to hearing more in the future. Okay, so what do we think about this? Could this statement and the public support tip the scales in his case? Let's bring back in attorneys Tommy Pope and Kirk Nurmi. Kirk, I want to begin with you here, please. How do you see this big wave of support playing out for him?
Boy, you know, it's really kind of a disturbing wave of support, really. We can talk about this idea of putting, you know, profits over people in the healthcare industry and how disturbing that is. But the fact that people are supporting murder as a response to that is disturbing trend, along with this social media and website and all these things. But I think when we talk about getting into the courtroom, where cases are still tried, is the concern becomes covert jurors. If you're a prosecutor on the case, you're going to want to make sure that there aren't people that have a background of supporting him contacting this website. I mean, if I'm the prosecutor, I'm looking at the contacts for this website, I'm subpoenaing these records, things of that nature, to make sure that I don't have jurors on there that feel the way, that want to support, maybe have donated to his cause, things of that nature, because that's where the scales of justice can really be tipped, Julie, as we have that in the courtroom, because that's where this case is going to be tried, not on a website, not on X, nowhere else but that courtroom.
Oh, you're so right, Kirk. I want to show you both a look at the Mangione Defense Fund. This was created by the December 4th Legal Committee. They've got a new goal of $1 million. It was $500,000, but here's why. Apparently, look at, they've raised over $460,000 for this guy. Wow. And he's wealthy. So there's that, too. Tommy Pope, tell me, dovetailing off of the great point that Kirk just made about the concern of these stealth jurors getting on, who are supporting murder, perhaps, if he did what the government says he did. How concerned do you think these prosecutors should be with that potential threat?
I think it's legitimate. I think Kirk hit the nail on the head. You need one juror. You know, the prosecution needs all 12. You just need one juror hang it up. The prosecution's got to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And again, I want to back up and say exactly what Kurt said. This is a sad commentary. In our own family, we've had difficulty with health insurance and things that weren't covered that should have been and all of those. But we're a country of rules and laws. And if suddenly you can you can shortcut your frustrations by taking a life and be lauded for that, we've got a serious problem. But from a prosecution standpoint in the courtroom, that's an additional layer of work in addition to prosecuting the case, as Kurt said. I mean, it's not that you don't try to do juror backgrounds anyway, but they're going to have to dig deep. They're going to have to subpoena this information. They're going to have to add extra staff. It detracts from, did he commit this murder, and can you prove it beyond a reasonable doubt?
Yes, and Tommy, I love your commentary there. I couldn't agree with you more. It makes me sick when I hear people calling him a hero. To me, he's everything but that. My response is always, who did he help? What did he do to help? Heroes save lives, protect lives, help people. What did he do here? He's accused of taking a life. What good did this do? Even if you've got an issue, someone like him, I think the worst part about it is he was such an all-star student, all of that, had money, support, the family named. He could have potentially become a federal lawmaker or someone to actually make changes and try to affect things the right way. Kirk Nurmi, would you kind of talk to me a little bit about what are the challenges from the defense side? You've been on high-profile cases. You both have. What is it like defending a guy like this?
Well, it really depends on what your disposition is towards it, right? There are some defense attorneys that might share this, what I would consider perverse belief about, the righteousness of his conduct, et cetera. But, as you're trying this case as a defense attorney, you're certainly kind of happy about this in the sense that you have all this support. Maybe you garner information. There are things that can come out of these sort of things. And obviously there's a defense fund as well, right? And it's a strange juxtaposition, for defense attorneys to kind of be raising money. That's kind of, I taught a legal education a while back talking about high-profile trials in the social media era, and this becomes part of this, is the ethics of attorneys raising money and things of that nature. But for me, my focus was the courtroom, because that's where the case is tried. But we see a lot of attorneys that are willing to step outside that courtroom and take some of this extraneous information, filter it, vet it, if you will, and maybe potentially use it in the case aside from the cash that is being donated.
This is really helpful insight. And Tommy, do us a favor, look at it from the opposite side. Being a prosecutor in high-profile cases, what's that like? Are these prosecutors nervous?
Absolutely. You got the additional pressure of the media, and it's like, I was thinking what Kurt was saying, the opportunity to look at the Reed case and all the things on social media. It's the old, I can't figure out who's on first. There's so many things going back and forth, these lay prosecutors or lay defense attorneys that lay out all that information. Well, people consume that and believe it. So I think on the defense side, Kurt said a very important word, ethics. Your ethics are only as good as people that'll stay on top of policing their own ethics. But if they cut that loose, you throw gas on anything you can, and the prosecution is trying to put out fires that are outside the courtroom, when it's exactly like Kurt said, the case should be tried in the courtroom in front of a jury with a judge fairly for both sides.
Excellent insight from you both. Yes, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir when I say, it makes me cringe. I always tell people, vet your sources. Where are you getting your information from? Is this person credible? I see these YouTube lawyers that have never tried a case in their life and, have never worked in criminal court, and they're apparently the experts on everything. All right, Tommy Pope, Kirk Nurmi, love having you guys on the show. Thanks so much.